All right, so as promised, I'm going to interpret this sketched floor plan into um, a real floor plan. And I'm discovering that I've made some errors with some of the measurements. So some of these dimensions that I have here are going to have to be reinterpreted. So the first part is I want to get these two containers drawn properly. So I've got an 8-foot wide by 20-foot container here, and then another one attached 8 feet wide by 20 feet here. And I just don't think I drew this properly the first time around. So I think I'm actually going to have a little bit more room lengthwise here than what I have drawn. So I'm going to do some math here. This is going to be 28 feet in this direction and 20 feet in that direction. I want to position that on the page so that I am utilizing the page and have it kind of either a little bit to the left of the page so I have room for my title block down here, or I may want to center it. So you can kind of decide on your end what you'd like to do. I usually draw with at least 2 sheets of paper below me, and the first thing that I do is establish both a vertical and a horizontal line to begin with off of the edge of the paper. So I'm using my rolling ruler to line it up on the edge of the paper, and I'm just going to roll it in about maybe about an inch and put in a construction line, and then I'll do the same on the bottom, and that's going to ensure that my things remain straight and somewhat perpendicular. Now I'm going to measure everything off of either this or this line. So let's go over from that. At the 1/4 inch scale, I want to measure over 8 feet. And I'm going to do that in 2 places and put in a construction line. And then I want to measure over from that line 20 feet in 2 places. And now I can go ahead and put in the width measurements this way. So I'm going to measure up 20 feet from here. Can't get my scale in the right place. 20 feet, we'll do that in 2 spots. And I want to put my line in there for that as a construction line. And I want to go 8 feet down from this line. Is that how I want to do it? No, I'm going to make an adjustment. I'm going to go 8 feet up from that line because I think I just want to position this a little bit closer to the top. So I'm going to go here and here, and then just chop off a little bit of this one. And you can, I think somebody asked in the other class, can we still make changes? You can. If you decide you want to make some changes as you're going and you want to rearrange your floor plan from the original sketch, that is perfectly acceptable. You can do that. So I'm just trying to get overall dimensions here. And because I've decided to go up instead of down, I've got to chop off, it looks like 8 feet from this end to make that 20 feet. I'm really just making this decision to make it fit on the page in a more desirable position, so I can put dimensions on one side and leave the dimensions off the other. So that's more like what it's going to look like. So there's that 20-foot container right there. So that should be 20 feet by 8 feet. Yep. And this should be 8 feet by 20 feet. And everything's lining up, okay? So that those dimensions, I just double checked them. This is 8 feet by 20 feet, 20 feet by 8 feet. I realized it went really bright there for a moment, so I wanted to make sure we got that. Let me just do autofocus again. Let's see if that gets it clear. Okay, so now I need to establish the thickness of the walls of the first floor. So I'm just going to reference the information that I uploaded to the assignment page, because I think I included in there a link to some typical container sizes. Since I'm doing the container project as a challenge, I want to see what those sizes are set to. And maybe that was in the lecture material. Let's check that out. Yeah, it was the end of the PDF actually. So at the very end here, I've got container sizes, and it is saying that our container wall thickness is interior dimensions are 7'8" by 7'10". So that's what I want to work on. So 7'8" is the interior dimensions. If I subtract that from the 8 feet for the width, then we're looking at 4 inches or 2 inches for the thickness of the walls. I'm also going to add, though, some furring to the walls. So what I'm going to have is the corrugated wall that is the actual wall of the container. And then I'm going to add a layer of strapping and then a layer of gypsum wallboard. So that's 2 inches. This is 3/4. And then this is a 1/2 inch. So if I add that up, I'm going to end up with 3 1/4 inches, I think. This plus this is 1 1/4 plus 2 is 3 1/4. So the total width of the wall is 3 1/4 inches. If you're doing typical stick framing construction, you're going to show 2 lines, and you're just going to poche that wall. I'm going to poche this one too, but you still want to draw somewhat of an accurate wall thickness. The thickness of this wall should be 6 inches. The reason it's 6 inches is if we're using a 2x6 stud, which is actually 5.5 inches wide, plus a 1/2 inch gypsum wallboard, that adds up to 6 inches. So that 6 inches is you're drawing just the line that shows where the finished wall is going to be on the inside, and just the line that shows the outside face of stud on the outside. But in a schematic drawing like this, you just poche the entire wall, and the 6 inches is being used as your finished and your framed dimensions. Finished on the inside, this is the interior, this is the exterior, let's say. That's what those 2 edges mean. So whatever way you're doing it, if you're doing a traditional stick framing, you want to do pochade walls like this. I just wanted to work out approximate dimensions for this wall for the way I was going to fur it. So what I'm going to do is draw these walls at about 3 inches, because again, it's schematic. And then I'm going to provide the dimensions to the outside for the outside walls. And if I have an interior partition, I will be using 2x3 studs instead of 2x4s. So those walls are going to have gypsum wallboard on either side. So it's 2.5 inches plus a 1/2 inch plus a 1/2 inch. So it's going to be a 3.5 inches, or I'm going to draw these walls at about 3 inches as well on the inside. So all my walls in my case, because they're all container walls, are all going to be about 3 inches. And that 3 inches works really well with the grid if you're using the grid, because it's half of a box is exactly 3 inches if you're using 1/4 inch grid. Or with this, you're going to be able to read that 3 inches really clearly on the 1/4 inch scale. So these walls, in other words, don't have to be exactly the size that they're going to be in real life. You just have to have an approximate size. So I'm just going to go around and make marks for where the 3 inch mark would be all the way around to define my boundaries for these 2 containers being put together. And this is the time-consuming part where I'll just kind of pause and I'll come back. All right, so now what I have is my walls all laid out and the thicknesses of my walls all laid out according to the real dimensions. And so in the next step and in the next video, I'm going to go ahead and locate all of the openings that I have. Actually, no, what I'll do first is locate all the interior partitions so that way I can make some decisions, and then I will locate my windows and doors afterwards. So I'm going to kind of do these in little pieces and parts so that you're not watching a big long video all at once.